So it's time now for difficult conversations. And if any of us were to receive the heartbreaking news that a loved one has cancer, or indeed you yourself have cancer, any differences that we have with our family members, in my view anyway, would literally be put to one side. That is how I see it. I think a lot of people see it that way as well. But there are concerns that even news of their father's illness will not lead to reconciliation between Prince William and Prince Harry, and potentially not even with the King. A view that was reinforced by the fact the brothers didn't meet when Harry returned to the UK earlier this week to visit the King following his cancer diagnosis. So will the brothers reconcile? What do you think? And how they cope with Charles's cancer diagnosis? And how does one cope with such a thing? So joining me to discuss is psychologist and artist and author, Dr. Pam Spurr. You're an artist?
Yes, I paint.
Did you? That's another. They just chucked that in there. I was like, artist. Really?
Oh, caught you by surprise.
It did. I was like, she draws, mind you. You do look very artistic yourself. You always look fabulous.
Oh, thank you. So do you.
Now, Dr. Pam Spurr, I was reading your piece in the Mirror about the brothers and reconciliation and families, and it just got me thinking about, you know, you've seen the situation with Meghan. She won't even go and see her dad, which is very. If you are, I want to ask this one first because I've asked other people who don't want to answer it. But just imagine you're with a partner whose dad is ill and they refuse to go and see that person and they're dying, but yet you would go and see yours. What's the psychology behind? What would Harry be thinking in his head with regard to his partner or somebody in that situation?
Well, I think it's just extraordinary that that the rift is so deep that someone will not go and see a parent when they're ill. And as a psychologist, I know that people can have incredibly deep, dark problems and issues that overwhelm the kind of sense that there's any way forward. And as I said in my piece in the Mirror, about, say, William and Harry, is that the finger pointing is what is so destructive. So when, say, Harry did the Oprah interview, the other royals did not have any recourse to publicly say their side. And that kind of finger-pointing is very, very destructive. And when it comes to Meghan and her father, I know there's been finger-pointing too. That is the worst thing you can do if you want to heal a rift. The first starting point is to put your hand up to what you've done wrong. So you might say, you know, I really messed up when we last saw each other. I was not in a good way, and I took it out on you. But I also feel that you are not showing me understanding. So if you put your hand up rather than point your finger, you are much more likely to start making that bridge that you slowly build. And what I felt so sorry that William and Harry did not see each other, because, again, that just speaks to the depth of their issues. But when it comes to sibling rivalry, let me tell you, Nana, 4 key points, and 3 of which apply to them, predict sibling rivalry. The same sex, so they're both boys. You're more likely to have more sibling rivalry between the same sex. A small age gap. There's only 2 years between them. Again, that's a pointer towards and predictive of sibling rivalry.
Wow.
Thirdly, parental discord. Well, Charles and Diana were hardly a happy couple, and often children act out to get the attention of parents who are bogged down with their own issues. And the 4th one is parents who always pay attention to the bad behavior, ignore the good behavior, then the child learns, if I play up, if I have a rivalry with my brother, my parent gives me attention, even if it's just being told off. So those are 4 key indicators.
Wow. I never even thought of it like that. But, yeah, when you think about it like that, it makes perfect sense.
And like with your children, 2 different sexes and quite a big gap.
Perfect.
And as you said, there's no rivalry between them.
No.
You know,
it's
if
great,
only we could all plan that.
Yeah, well, you know, some of us can't be perfect. We can't all be perfect. But the point I was kind of making was that if you were with somebody who refused to go and see their father when they're ill, but then you would still go and see yours if he was ill.
It just shows how extreme. Yeah, I think you'd feel.
In your head, what would you be thinking about the other partner? Do you think?
Well, I think in my head I'd be very concerned. Why is it so bad? Unless you are unless you know all the secrets and all the dark spaces in their mind about why they won't do that.
Yeah.
I think you would be thinking, this is not right. Like, Harry goes to see his father, but she didn't go to see hers. We can never know, though, what's going on. This is the thing. We can speculate. We have no idea what drove, say, Meghan so far away from her father that she would not see him when he was so ill.
Well, I think he sold a story. I think that's what we hear.
That was the feeling. But I think even I'd forgive that eventually.
But you think you would, because she sold all the other stuff. You'd think you'd go, well, do you know what? he may have sold the story because he didn't quite understand what was going on anyway, and I get it. But then she has literally sold out. They both have.
Exactly. The privacy tour that was not about privacy.
It wasn't at all. So with the King's diagnosis of cancer, because obviously that is a huge thing, people are saying, oh, well, he was very open about his prostate diagnosis, so why is he now not telling us what kind of cancer it is? I mean, even Dennis was saying that just earlier. Now, why would you think psychologically that somebody might not want to disclose that?
Well, I think there's embarrassment or pride, you know, depending on the cancer. Someone like King Charles might feel embarrassed to reveal it, although, you know, prostate cancer is quite a, you know, personal and private thing.
Or talking about prostates in general, yeah, and large prostate.
Yeah. So that you know, he shared that. What I find interesting as a psychologist is you are now under immense speculation. Everyone on social media is speculating what kind of cancer it is. I don't see it serves any purpose not to reveal that. And as I say, from my perspective, it must be a pride or an embarrassment thing.
Or maybe it's quite very serious. He's playing it down because he doesn't want to put stress on potentially William. Because there are some very deadly cancers that we know that the survival rate is low.
Yes, but I would think with William he'd have to be totally honest.
Oh, with William he will be. And do you think he was honest with Harry about it as well and told him all about it?
I think Harry coming over when he's made it so clear that he really does not like visiting our country, I think coming over signifies some sort of seriousness. But again, I'm speculating.
Yes, we
and
all are.
That's what happens when you don't know what it is. And I think the same happened with Kate Middleton.
Yeah.
Everybody speculated, abdominal surgery, well, what can that mean? You know, a hysterectomy or colon problems or an ulcer. I mean, so people were speculating wildly. And again, I think honesty in this generation of the royals is crucial. We look back to Princess Diana. She talked about her anorexia, her bulimia. You know, she talked about her postnatal depression. She was honest, and people loved that.
Yeah.
You know, they really admired her for that. So I don't think they're serving any purpose by keeping the type of problem private.
Yeah, maybe, or it could be that it's... I mean, I'm praying that it's not worse, which is why they're keeping it quiet. But maybe it's because William's also got a lot of pressure with his wife, Catherine, who's not very well at the moment as well. And abdominal surgery is a very broad brush for any sort of surgery. But the abdominal area is quite a serious, complex region that has very many things in there. So
that can go wrong. Exactly.
Yeah. What about people who, if somebody's just been given a diagnosis of cancer, because that must be very, very difficult to deal with. And I hear of people not telling even their partner for quite some time, getting their own head around it. How should someone cope with something like that?
Well, it's interesting you say that. And coping with it is first knowing that how you feel about it is yours. And you can claim that. And if for a time you feel you do not want to reveal it, that is your choice. So it's important that, you know, people tend to go through the stages of accepting cancer and accepting that they're going to be living with it and having it treated. But they go through those stages in different ways. So, you know, there's anger, there's numbness. It's kind of like grief, you know, and then there's finally acceptance. So you have to know that you're not going to go through it in the ways that, say, in psychology books, it's written that most people go through it. Numbness, shock, then anger, then fear, then acceptance, and then being able to help fight it or live with it. So you have to accept your way, embrace it, and then make your choices about who you share it with. But don't be frightened. I think people are frightened of telling, like, their children, like, say, King Charles. They don't want children worried about it. Yeah. And at some point, you're going to have to let your children know, especially if you're going through treatments that are going to affect you, your exhaustion,
Although you've said one thing and then said a different thing, because you said you should own it, share it in your own way, but then when it comes to the King, you need to tell us everything. Sort of.
Well, the reason why I'm saying about King Charles is because of the speculation went like wildfire across. It still is. You know, whereas the rest of us, we only have our own home and our own family and friends to worry about. Whereas the speculation has been insane.
Well, what about your book? Now, you've got a book coming. What's it called? What's it about?
It's my first children's book. Of course, I've written 15 self-help books for adults. And 7 years ago, on the birth of my first granddaughter, I started writing children's stories. And finally, I wrote this one after the birth of my second granddaughter. It's called Eva the Bear and the Magic Snowflake. And her name is Eva, and her nickname is the Bear, because even when she was 6 months old, she's now 4.5, she would try and hurtle herself herself before she could crawl. She's got all this gusto, and so she's called the bear. And in the story, I hope as a psychologist I've written that for children to see that you can face something very daunting, but you can kind of rise to the challenge, dig deep, and, you know, help find that way to making sure you're okay.
Oh, that's cute. And it's out now, is it?
It's going to be out in 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Wonderful. And they can get it on all the usual
I'm
ways.
giving you a copy for Ivory.
Oh, you would love it. He would love it because he's
in the right age group.
Yeah, he's perfect for that. He loves books. He loves reading. Dr. Pam Spurr, thank you so much. Really good to talk to you. Good luck with your book.
Thank you.
Wow.